what happens next? Let's say, like your extrinsic motivation doesn't do anything anymore. It's like, yeah, sure, I earned the money, but so what?
This is extrinsic motivation will get you only that far, right?
Yeah.
It is not necessarily what will keep you going through the very difficult times, through the tricky times, through the challenges. Sometimes things don't make sense in life as well. And like, what is it that keeps you going? What is it that keeps you motivated? Welcome back, everyone, to another Friday coffee chat. We're so happy that you're here. We're sitting here, we're having a herbal tea because, I don't know, I was just... we were talking about serenity before, and I feel like it just fits the vibe of serenity.
I have to say, this herbal tea is nice in the sense of it doesn't make me sleepy. Because like peppermint tea, for instance, makes me 100% sleepy. Yeah.
So just so you know, this is a blend of Greek mountain tea and chamomile and verbena or something. Anyway, it's a bit like citrusy.
I think the verbena is like something
the
from
verbena.
these, like...
No, it's not verbena. It's the other one. In Greek, it's called Louisa, but I don't know what it's called in English. So yeah. Anyway, it's a bit like citrusy, lemony, and I believe it has a teeny tiny bit of mint, but I'm not sure. So it's a very nice blend, very herbal, but just very nice, very serene.
We're being serene today.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm just swamped a little bit with work, but like I want to finish it. Like I have this obsession at the moment that I just want it to be done. Like I have a project that just needs to end.
Done with it.
It just needs to end. At this point, I feel like there is nothing else to improve it with, but I just need it to be done so bad. I don't know. It's like almost an obsession. So I feel like I kind of want to work on it for it to be done.
It's like you want to close the mental tab.
Completely. I'm so done with it's like I've been rereading this, project report for so long. I already know it by heart,
But I feel like this is also so typical for academia, I have to say, where it's like professional overthinking sometimes. Where it's like you can give feedback 100 times. And of course, there's always going to be things that you can improve and that you can change. But at some point, you just want it done. It's like, I do not care. I just want it done. I just send it off. It is what it is.
It's good enough. And the thing is, you are going to do it up to like the highest standard before you submit, and still some a-hole is gonna do an R&R on you. R&R is revise and resubmit, where you get a review for your paper, and they're still not gonna like it, and they're still gonna want things
have
to improve.
Change things probably. Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my god, guys, like some people actually move forward with things much faster and have more impact.
I feel like this is such a big difference to industry, though, like industry versus academia. The timelines, the sense of time passing is not comparable. This is like, I think this is one of the biggest differences. There are many differences, but this is one of the biggest differences. Just what 1 month means for each is a completely different universe.
Yeah. Just to give you an idea, basically, when you start a project, a research project, from its start until you actually get a paper out, like it's published and it's available to the public, 2 years.
In our area of expertise, let's say, it can take 2 years.
So
for
in
many
psychology,
people. I don't know if this is the absolute maximum or if this is the average. I'm going to be honest, I don't know whether it's like the max or the average.
It is the max for me and my own standards, like it's just too long, and I'm somebody who just needs closure. And it's just, sometimes you just need a project to end. So this is where I'm at. But I have some things to look forward to, and Easter is coming up in a month or so. So I'm kind of gearing up for that.
Yeah, so if you're oh no, I was about to say if you're wondering why we're talking about Easter in 1 month, I was about to say that it's different. Catholic and like Protestant Easter is different to, you know, the Orthodox Easter, but actually this year it's exactly the same day.
Yeah, this year is the same.
Yeah, so never mind. Forget about what I just said, I guess.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I want the traditions. Like, I don't know, kind of, you know, they're like very grounding.
Oh,
and
it's
very,
just
like,
nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just be with family as well. Well, these things are something we look forward to. One thing that a lot of us are actually really not looking forward to are Mondays. So I don't know about
that was
you.
such a smooth bridge.
Yeah.
I have to say.
Well, you know, I mean, have you ever looked forward to a Monday? I've looked forward to it if my birthday happened to be on a Monday or my name day, one of the two.
Same.
I don't
No, you're
remember
right.
unless okay, also one of my graduations. I
Oh,
think
was
it
on a
was
Monday?
I think my master's graduation was on a Monday. So obviously I look forward to that. But at the same
Yeah.
time I was annoyed because all the restaurants in town, like the good restaurants, were closed. I was so annoyed. My favorite restaurants were closed on a Monday because they're open all other days. I was like, oh. So anyway, we digress.
I feel like that's a Dutch thing, though. I feel like they just don't want. Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe they were dreading Mondays so bad that they actually stopped working on Mondays altogether.
Maybe. It's like, you know, the whole Monday blues is just make it not exist.
Yeah.
But there's other ways of making it not exist or making it exist less. Let's be real. And this is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about how to be motivated on a Monday. And if you're thinking, what are you guys talking about? Are you crazy? Like, this doesn't exist.
Impossible.
It's not possible. I get you. I feel you. I think I'm still struggling with Mondays, but there are things that make it better and make you hate Mondays less, basically. And we're going to go into them, like the things that you can look at and pay attention to, and that are likely gonna make your work life a little bit better and, you know, get you help you get out of bed on a Monday without dreading it every single week.
So we're gonna go a lot into what is motivation and how do we even become motivated at work so that we actually don't dread these Mondays. What is at the core of us feeling like we want to get out of bed and actually want to do something? And there's a spoiler alert right there, because it is not about money. Because, you know, a lot of people actually think, oh, you know what? I go to my job for the money that I get, and then I just go home and mind my own business. But in reality, it's never really just that. And that's something that, like, we noticed people having this bias almost, you know, or like this is the story that they tell themselves that, oh yeah, but I just work for the money, you know, the rest doesn't matter. And interestingly enough, statistically speaking, but also when you look at how motivation even works, like the psychology of motivation, you can really see that the monetary incentive or like the money you get, that's a temporary motivation, basically.
And for some people, it's more motivating to have, I don't know, a job with a lot of prestige or that pays you a very nice salary each month. Of course, there are differences, but as you said, all in all, there are so many other aspects that play a role, and where oftentimes we would be willing to sacrifice, for example, money in the sense of like maybe earning a couple €100 less per month, but instead have certain things that we highly value. And what these things are that we value, or that actually any employee values, more or less, so not just like us two. So we're going to get into that and just break it down.
Yeah. So just to start with, what is motivation in general? And I think a way in which we can really think about motivation and kind of think in, you know, kind of how we divide motivation in types of motivation, what we can think of, and, you know, we're sure that you also know that there is extrinsic motivation. So the motivation that you get when you are about to receive a reward for whatever work you're doing, or you're about to receive a monetary incentive. this motivation is, yeah, very fleeting. It's, basically working for the candy. It's like, when I was a child, and I'll be like, if you wash the dishes, you're gonna get a candy. That is pure extrinsic motivation.
Oh, this, I don't know if it's a metaphor or whatever, but where it's like you're sitting like on a donkey and you're holding the carrot, and like the donkey is walking because it wants the carrot, right? And It's kind of like that. It's just whichever shiny object or shiny well, money is not an object, really. How do you say it? How do you call it? Like a commodity. Whichever shiny thing is there where you're like, oh, I want it. And so this is the reward, and this is the reason you're doing things. But it's not coming from within you, right? The motivation is not inside you. It's just something that the environment promises to give you, basically.
Exactly. And you know what? Like, our brains are actually so smart when it comes to extrinsic motivation. I was talking with a friend about this topic, like motivation in general, and she was talking about how she does shopping to give herself this extra motivation for the money that she earns. So it's kind
like
of
a reward.
It's like a reward.
It's like a reward.
So basically, it is, you are giving yourself an extrinsic motivation, like a motivator in that sense. But you are doing that to yourself. You're not waiting for somebody else to do it. But you basically tell yourself, look, if I work, I will get money that then I can afford to buy things that I like. Again, as you said, like the shiny things that like I want that, But the reality is you can only go with extrinsic motivation so far. And fortunately or unfortunately, that is the reality. So we're really gonna go into what happens next. Let's say, like your extrinsic motivation doesn't do anything anymore. It's like, yeah, sure, I earned the money, but so what?
This is extrinsic motivation will get you only that far, right?
Yeah.
It is not necessarily what will keep you going through the very difficult times, through the tricky times, through the challenges. Sometimes things don't make sense in life as well. And like, what is it that keeps you going? What is it that keeps you motivated? And this is intrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
And intrinsic motivation is very different to extrinsic motivation in the sense of this is the motivation from within. For whatever reason, for example, I don't know, I feel motivated to volunteer, for example.
Yeah.
Why do I want that? I'm not gaining any money. Oftentimes, you're not really gaining a lot of rewards from like outside in the sense of like just monetary or prestige or things like that. It doesn't necessarily help your career. But you can be very motivated to still do it because it gives you a sense of meaning, because you value helping other people, you value some sort of social service, and maybe you gain a lot from being in contact with people and helping them and seeing your help and like the the small part that you add to something bigger and greater and more meaningful in life. And this is what you get, and this is intrinsic motivation, basically.
Exactly.
That's just an example.
So we're gonna go into what is behind this intrinsic motivation. What exactly do we need to gain this intrinsic motivation, to finally wake up and just be like, it's a good day to do what I have to do, Just
even if it's Monday.
Even if it's Monday. And just imagine, that you actually gain that feeling. How meaningful is it? How satisfying is it to just, and I think, people who work, as you said, who volunteer a lot, but also people who have like certain ideas or start as entrepreneurs. Usually in the beginning, they have this intrinsic motivation because you don't have any money yet, right? You have to like literally invest. So what keeps you going, And I feel like that is a question that every one of us at some point in our lives are going to struggle with. And it's so important to be able to assess these three things that we're going to talk about and to actually realize where is my need not fulfilled in what of these three areas, so that you can really understand maybe why you're dreading Mondays, or yeah, why you're not feeling this internal motivation to get up and do things.
Yeah. And it really is, these are three different needs that each and every person has, surely to varying degrees, but we all have them. And if these three needs are not satisfied or frustrated, this is where a lot of problems start. And this is where we start feeling very uncomfortable and unhappy and frustrated, actually. And so the first need is when you feel like you have the freedom and the flexibility to decide when to work, how to work, where to work, and on what to work. Right?
Those are a lot of
That's a
W
lot,
words.
That's a lot of W words, but it's basically having freedom and having some room for decision making and some choices that you can make so that you can feel autonomous, really.
Exactly. And I think it's quite important here to also acknowledge that if you're an employee, for instance, right? But I think it even works if you're an entrepreneur, if you like start your own business, you're never going to have complete freedom. Like even as an entrepreneur, you're not going to have complete freedom. But what is important is to realize how much freedom you need. Because also a lot of people have different needs when it comes to autonomy, or when it comes to the degrees of freedom that they want in their life. Some people really want structure. They want to be guided, into, for instance, like how some things work in the workplace, right? Like how a project needs to be done and so on. They need more structure. So they actually need less freedom than other people who love a blank page and love being given the freedom to explore and to do whatever they want, because I don't know, maybe they feel better, maybe they get more creative, like if they have more freedom and so on. So here is really important to think about what kind of freedom is important to me.
It really is about the fit. We know from a lot of studies, like honestly, there's so many studies out there that really show it's not about, okay, this is a perfect level of freedom or autonomy that you can have as a person, because every person is different. And the perfect amount of freedom depends on your very specific and personal level of autonomy or freedom that you want to have. And if you have more or if you have less, both situations are going to make you feel stressed. So
exactly.
It's really important to be aware of what is best for me. What do I need? And either way is fine. There's no right or wrong. I guess the only wrong is if there's no fit.
Or if there's no freedom.
Or if there's no freedom.
Which can also happen, but that is mostly, we're talking toxic environments there. But I feel like, it's so interesting because it is also about the type of freedom that you want. Because a lot of the times, like I look at myself, right? Like I want a lot of decision-making freedom. Like I want to be able to make my decisions and stand by them, At the same time, when it comes to resources on how to carry on the work, there I feel like I need more guidance, Like for instance, if I'm starting a new project and I need new resources or like new software for that, I would like somebody to actually guide me through that and to tell me this is how you do it, this is where you have to input this and that, and this is how it works. So there I actually don't need as much freedom as I need into how do I make my decisions, but also where and when I work. So like this different types of freedoms or degrees of freedom and different types of areas where you can express this autonomy, right? And I think it's really, really important to reflect on what kind of freedom works for me and what kind of freedom do I need to feel motivated. And basically feel like I have the free will to do what I want.
Yeah. And I mean, this really is the reason why this sense of autonomy or the sense of freedom that we have, this is the reason why it is so important and why it fuels our motivation. It's because it allows us to make work fit to us, and where we don't feel like we need to completely give up ourselves and the way we work and the way we function to fit the specific job. And of course, depending on the job and the industry, you might have more room to do that or less room to do that. And sometimes it just comes with the job. But, wherever it's possible, when you can make the work fit for you, for example, based on your chronotype, right?
Yeah.
I love to start working at 8. If I had to start working at 10, like, sure, I can do that, but, it wouldn't be perfect. And for you, it's the other way around, where you prefer to start working late. If you were forced to start working at, like, 8 a.m., probably that wouldn't be... You would do it, but it wouldn't motivate you. So it really is about this opportunity to basically make work fit for you and not having to force yourself to fit into a certain standard that, a standard is a standard. Some people will fall into it and some people not.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it is really about having the freedom to live life as you want to live it, right? And that is
even within a job to a certain degree.
Yeah. And that is just something very motivating. I feel like in general, like if you think about it, living your life as you want it, isn't that motivating?
I mean, to me it is. But again, I know that for some people, this seems very scary. And I get it. Like, imagine you could do whatever. You would be also a little bit overwhelmed to a certain degree.
Yeah, true. But that's where,
But it depends on the personality.
It depends, exactly. So, you guys, reflect on your autonomy and your freedom in your work, because that is really impacting your motivation. The second need that we wanted to discuss when it comes to intrinsic motivation is really the need to feel like you're doing your job well, to feel like you're doing well in general, and also the need to learn new things. And that is just, that's an interesting one, because on the one hand, you can kind of think of people, who, let's say, they've been in a career for quite some time, and now they've reached a certain level of expertise, right? Mm-hmm. But even then, if they don't learn new things, they're going to feel bored, It's going to start feeling like stagnation almost.
Yeah. We really need to feel competent. This is really what it boils down to. And again, feeling competent, as you said, is not about knowing everything all the time and having all the answers. But it's also having the feeling of, even if I don't know something, I can learn and I can grow and I can develop myself further, personally or professionally. And this gives us a sense of, I can do it.
Yeah.
I can do what I'm supposed to do. And when you don't feel that, and you do feel bored, and you do feel like there is a stagnation, and you're like, okay, where is this going? Mm-hmm. I can continue like this, but am I happy with continuing like this?
Exactly.
This can be such a demotivator.
Exactly. But I feel like it's also, thinking about competence in general, it is also about the resources that you get, because you will feel competent when you have all the resources you need to do your job well.
Yeah.
And this is key here, because when you don't have these resources at hand, you're going to feel frustrated, and this is going to diminish your motivation to even want to do anything for this specific job, because you don't have the right tools to do it well.
And this is going to stress you out. Like, if you're expected to do something, let's say prepare a certain presentation with, I don't know, certain numbers, right, for a client, and you don't have the numbers, for example, or it's like, okay, but how are you going to do it? But again, if you're still expected to do it, this is going to stress you. And this is, I have to say, this is the one thing I remember in one of my internships anyway, where it was like, okay, like, you're supposed to do all these things, but if you're not provided with the resources, right, be it money, be it time, be it knowledge, it doesn't matter what, like, for anything we do, there are certain ingredients needed for us to be able to do what we're supposed to do, right? And if any of these ingredients are missing, like, what are you supposed to do?
It's like you can't make bread without flour.
Yeah, exactly. Or you can't make cake without baking soda or something. It's gonna not be good.
It's gonna flop. It's gonna be a complete flop.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is so stressful. And of course, try to find motivation. You're gonna wake up on a Monday and dread going to work because you're like, I'm stressed, I don't know how to get things done. And oftentimes it's not even your own fault, but just the environment. The environment's fault. Let's call it the environment's fault.
Yeah, so we don't, go into more details. But basically with competence, what it boils down to is our basic need to feel in control and to feel like we can get the outcomes that we want to get, that we have all the tools and all the resources to pursue and achieve our goals. And this is where we become motivated, because in order for us to get up and do our stuff, we need to know that we can.
Yeah.
And that is something powerful, because we know that we're going to have all the resources. We know that we have all the inner resources as well. And we also know that it's going to be a fun ride on the way, because we're going to learn new things as well. And this is what makes us motivated in the end.
And then the third need that helps us be motivated is to have good relationships with our colleagues and our supervisors. And I'm sure that if you just take a moment and think about the best job you've ever had, and then you think about, okay, how were my relationships to my colleagues or to my supervisor? Chances are, I'm just going to make this, chances are that it was a job where you had a great relationship with your colleagues, your supervisors, both of them, either of them. It just makes a big difference.
Exactly.
We are social animals.
Yeah.
We are. We get incredibly uncomfortable when there's conflict or when we feel like there's a vibe off. And that is no different at work.
Yeah, and I feel like it's also this kind of like the need to also belong to a certain extent, but not necessarily to the extent to which you will have, friendships that are going to last a lifetime at work. Like, we're not talking about that. We're really talking about the fact that you can actually go to work and have a conversation with somebody that is going to relate to you, and maybe you'll find yourselves in the same situation, and you're gonna like talk about it or complain about the same things, and the other person's gonna be like, yes, oh my god, I feel the same. And that is relatedness.
Or just having a laugh together, being able to trust the other people. Again, it doesn't mean you need to be able to trust them with your deepest, darkest secrets. It's not about that, but just having this feeling of, you know what, I like these people.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm looking forward to have a chat with them. I can have a laugh with them. I can trust them. If they say they're going to get something done, they're going to get it done. If they cannot get it done, then they're going to come tell me. There's like this level of trust and respect and appreciation of each other. Like, I have to think about honestly, my favorite job, like when I was like the happiest, was actually a job I had during my studies, where I was in this team and I was just helping out twice a week or something, right? The job was, it was boring. It was like kind of meditative in a way, right? Because I just helped them with like some data entries and some, I don't know, I did copying. I did whatever they needed help with, right? It was an office job. So the job itself wasn't like, wow, I'm like learning so much. I'm building a career here, but the people were so nice, and I love thinking back about it. I'm like, you know what? Like, these people in that team were so. I was looking forward to going there every time, twice a week. I was looking forward to go see them, chat with them. They were also older. I was awesome. By far the youngest. Like, the average age was like 20 years older than I was at the time. But they were so lovely, and it was still one of my favorite jobs that I ever had. It makes such a difference, eh?
Yeah. Now, I have to say, like, with relatedness in general, like, if you think about it, but also taking from statistics, sometimes, and I've had multiple conversations with different people who don't know each other, that people quit their jobs not because of lack of money or lack of recognition, in that like monetary recognition, or lack of growth opportunities. They don't quit their jobs because of those reasons as much as they do because they feel like the social environment, so like the relationships they have at work or the supervisors they have, are just not it. They have conflicts with them. they can't relate to them. So the social aspect is super powerful when it comes to our motivation at work. And I even like remember a conversation I had with someone. It was they wanted to leave their job, and they were having second thoughts because of the people, you know?
Oh, because the people were nice.
Because they're like, yeah, but these are nice people. Like, I'm just thinking about I would have to go to a new job.
Wow,
sure, it would pay better, but I wouldn't have these people with me. And that is just powerful because it shows you that this person was not necessarily going to work for the money that they got, you know? And like, even she was aware that she wanted more, you know, a monetary, like more income, but the people were really an incentive to stay, you know? And this is coming from the inside. Like, nobody can take that away from you, you know? It's like, if you vibe, you vibe.
Yeah. And I think it's also, you know what, if you think about when are you the most exhausted when you come from work, right? Think about the days where you came from home, you were so exhausted and just drained and kind of done and frustrated. Maybe you even, you know, had a crying session. These are all things that are happening, right? We probably all experience these situations at least once in our work life. And thinking then about, okay, what happened on these days? Sure, maybe there was a lot of work, but typically it's when there has been some sort of conflict with another person at work, or maybe a client that really made you feel that miserable in that moment. Exactly. So relationships, so important.
Yeah. So you guys, this was a handful in this episode. Just to recap our main points of this episode. First one is there's two types of motivation. There's extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation will only get you so far when it comes to being motivated and waking up and not dreading Mondays. And actually, it is the intrinsic motivation that we all should be fostering, and we all should understand for ourselves, like what motivates us specifically. And there are 3 specific needs that play into this intrinsic motivation, and that is freedom. That is feeling like you're doing your job well and that you have learning opportunities, but also feeling connected to others and feeling that you have good relationships with others.
And you guys, if you've been loving this episode, you can support our Friday coffee chats by buying us a coffee. You can find the link to that in the episode description. And if you've been loving this episode, share it with a friend so they can also learn how to find motivation even on a Monday.
See you in the next one.
Bye.